there's a 40% rise in calls of people who are actively suicidal or are considering suicide. 40% from last year. And I've heard also in the same kind of figure that overdoses are up 40% from last year. We don't hear about it because all this other stuff is in the news. But we're losing a lot of people, a lot of great people.
I'm Lily Cornell Silver, and welcome to Mind Wide Open, my mental health focused interview series. Today, I'm talking to Harold Owens, the Senior Director of MusiCares. MusiCares is a nonprofit organization that's part of the Recording Academy that provides a safety net of critical assistance to the music community. Harold and I talk about the power of music and mental health and the importance of ending the stigma around mental health and addiction. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Well, hi, Harold. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to do this. I really am.
Thank you. No, I so appreciate it. I grew up going to MusiCares events.
Right.
Such an incredible organization. So would love to start just by talking about what it is in your words and how you're involved.
So I am senior director, and really anything that happens, I was hired to do the musicians who are in trouble, people in the music industry, if they had substance abuse or mental health issues, because that was my background, to help them. And if they didn't have any money, we would pay for it. MusiCares, we have contracts with providers across the country. Before, I've been at MusiCares 21 years, and before that, I was the program director at a place called Exodus Treatment Center. It was down in the Marina. That's where I first met your mom. And
Cool.
There were maybe one or two managers at the time. We're talking early 90s, right?
Yeah.
And your mom was one of the first managers ever to take a look at her artists and say, hey, you need some help. And we're not going forward until you do this. And so she sent all her guys that were having trouble, you know, and before, it was a meltdown because, on one hand, it's a business, but on the other hand, you have to take care of your artists.
Absolutely.
And their health, So I really applaud her in doing that. As now it's become pretty. Now a lot of managers are getting that. They understand there's a monetary value in this, and there's a ethical, humanistic value in helping people.
Exactly.
Mental health, you can't do it on your own. And I can tell you, one of your questions is, how I got sober. I got sober 31 years ago, Lily. I was essentially living in my car. I was strung out on heroin. I had good jobs over the years, and then I blow it. And then finally it got to the point where I had absolutely nothing. Okay. And I was sleeping in my car, and I remember a thought came over me. I felt so ashamed and at what I had become, and the fear of going and being a bum on the street was more scary than me committing suicide. That was it. It was crazy, but that was. I remember that night specifically. That was the night I decided I wanted to take my life because I felt it was truly worthless. Couldn't stand the pain, and I guess it's like a God shot. I called my mom, and who had locked me out of the house, and my mom put me in treatment that night and saved my life,
Wow.
And I went back to school, and I helped open up a psychiatric unit at that place called Exodus, in the Marina. And I got I got a lot of education about mental illness and mental health on that, in that unit. And then I went over to the Exodus side, and man, we had all this. It was, for a while, Exodus had a great thing because we treated everybody a little bit differently.
Right.
It wasn't like one cookie cutter. We really spent time. We understood the industry. We understood about how musicians are family, and we treated the family of musicians as well as, the nuclear family. But it was important for us to get everybody involved and everybody get on the same page. I'm really helping someone because I know the language, I know the pain that they're in, and I continue to draw on that. And they listen. That's the thing. They listen. And as people who are in that state of desperation, a lot of people don't want to be around them, but you have to ask the questions. Now we have, we've got a lot more people, but we do a lot more things. For instance, mental health. We do mental health therapy and treatment, which is quite expensive sometimes. We do medical problems, people with cancer, people having serious medical issues, or they're laid off work, they can't work. And this is all pre-epidemic. Dental work, they can't afford rent, they can't afford their mortgage, they're about to lose their houses, taxes. It's a wide range of services that MusiCares does, which why I stay here so long, because we understand the whole global thing of of music.
Could you speak a little bit more to what the mental health care aspect looks like? Like, how do you provide specifically for musicians who need help with their mental health?
What we do is we have a list of therapists who obviously treat and do services on an outpatient basis. But sometimes, I've had to go up to an artist and actually call 911 and get them into, a county facility. Mental health is expensive in terms of, it's not like substance abuse where I could put somebody in for, 30 days. What it costs for an inpatient stay at a mental health program is like $2,000 a day. We'd go broke in a second.
Right.
So part of it is we have to find the crisis period,
right,
and get them over the crisis, but then provide some aftercare with therapy and making sure they're right. We have a group that specifically talks about it, and we also hook them up with other providers in different cities wherever they may come.
right.
I saw your dad. I saw Chris 2 days before he died. I was down in Florida. He was doing a show, and I got a message from one of the runners to tell him Harold's here. I wanted to say hi, and he was in and out, and he gave me that smile, but he was gone, and that hurt because I knew him for a lot of years.
I mean, yeah, and in that vein, that's something as we know, addiction can be a self-medication for underlying mental health issues that aren't necessarily being treated or talked about openly, which is why I appreciate what you guys do at MusiCare so much is talking about both of those things openly and in conjunction with one another, because you can't really talk about addiction without talking about mental health.
Absolutely. And sometimes the mental illness precedes the addiction, and it's about self-medicating. But other times, like with me, my addiction caused mental illness, and it was exactly the same kind of syndrome. It was exactly the depression, the feelings of worthlessness, isolation, feeling like you're a failure. It's so combined, Lily. You're right about that. And I think over the years, people have become sophisticated enough to understand and how to treat both.
Sure.
But not every treatment center can do that. Not, you go in for one, but they're missing something completely different.
And your experience with getting sober, you went through that treatment plan, and how do you maintain your mental health now? Like, how do you maintain your sobriety? Because obviously it's a one day at a time kind of thing.
Well, yeah, it is, but I immediately got involved in 12-step recovery.
Right.
And from day one, I'm 31 years sober. I still
Congratulations.
go to meetings. I mean, I have a group of guys. We've been going to meetings together 25 years. It's a men's group, and we meet 5 times a week on Zoom. I might not see him, but it's Zoom. But it's the connection, because when they're going through stuff, we're all there for them, and we offer our own. Just last week, someone said, "Guys, I'm not feeling so good today. I don't know what it is." Blah blah blah. Everybody, it's like everybody could relate to that for that
Right.
particular day.
Right.
Whatever that gloom and doom was, we were able to talk about it. And when we left that meeting, we all felt better. We all felt closer. People who struggle they can't do it alone. It's important to have a really supportive network. And so
Definitely.
that's what we try to do. And by the way, another topic on that
Of
is
course.
that women, I think, they have a harder time than men a lot of times. They sometimes there are a lot of other factors that go along with that, and
I think in the music industry, especially, the pressures of being a woman in the industry are so high, and there can be almost more scrutiny and more backlash. And
so true.
yeah, I mean, just from hearing stories from my mom and witnessing her walk through a very male dominated industry, especially when she was first getting into it. Yeah, there can be a lot more scrutiny for women in
And
the
I got
industry.
to tell you, that kind of that's one of the things I speak a lot on issues that concern the music industry.
Right.
A woman called me and she was on tour. She's an engineer on tour, and she had been like assaulted. And it happened a few years before that. But it finally came to term that she had to do something because she was sitting on it for so long. And so she called for, a therapist, and finally is starting to deal with it. And that's a door that needs to be open a little bit wider.
Totally. I mean, obviously, the work that you're doing is very, very personal to you and dear to you, and that's something that I'm just kind of getting into, is realizing like how it can be. It's healing and rewarding, but it can also be very intense to be going into a line of work where you're helping others or trying to talk about things that you yourself have struggled with. So, how do you negotiate that in your day to day work?
One of the biggest things I've done as a sober guy, as a man, is a woman came to me about 5 years ago and said she wanted to start a music school for kids in Rwanda. She had
Amazing.
started 5 schools in sub-Saharan Africa, and but they were educational. She wanted to do music, so she came to me. And I'll tell you something. In about a month, I had called in a lot of favors, and so Remo, DW, and Roland, they sent me so much gear. I had for free. I had to get then Rocket Cargo that does the shipping. They shipped for free with no questions asked to
Wow.
Rwanda. It would have cost a fortune. And so for the past 4 years, we've had 2 schools. One was in a UN refugee camp. It's the first music school in a UN refugee camp in Rwanda. It's way up in the border by Congo. It's really dangerous. And but the kids, when we showed up, they were just all over us, man. They wanted to help. They helped paint the school. It's
Yeah.
been one of the things that have changed my life, and
Yeah.
giving back.
The selflessness in that, and the desire to share your gifts with other people is so appreciated. And music as well. I mean, I think we
And
all know
music.
it's the
I
universal
know
thing.
we got all these guitars.
Right.
I mean, DW gave us all these different kits.
That is
They,
so awesome.
so the thing was, but then Remo sent all the percussion stuff, right?
Right.
So we've got maybe 5 brand new kits from DW, and the kids are looking at, because it's Africa, and they're on the percussion, but and the same, it's a guitar, and we start a choir, and just that. Do you know anything about that country other than the movie?
No, no, no.
Rwanda was a place where in 1994 there was a genocide, and in 90 days, these 2 ethnic groups, the one they were called the Hutus, they killed over 1 million people in 90 days. That movie
Wow.
Hotel Rwanda is based on it, and it does a good job about showing what that horror was. It was just,
Right.
it was horrible. And if I saw a guy my age walking down the street, he'd either have a scar or he might be losing a limb or an arm. It was nothing like I'd ever experienced.
And I can only imagine the intergenerational trauma that
Yes,
has come from.
correct. But I say that just because when I thought my life was over, it had just begun, you know, and I'm so glad I didn't kill myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Because look
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah.
And I do really appreciate that focus on music because, as I said, obviously my family's in the industry, but for me personally, music has been such a healing tool, whether that's listening to music or playing music or writing music.
Hmm.
But I think there's kind of not even so much a stigma as like musicians tend to run a little bit more like emotionally on fire sometimes
Sure.
and
Oh,
have
for
deeper
sure.
emotions and tend to have more emotional turmoil. So, that's why I think Music Cares is such an incredible thing because fostering that creativity in a space where you can be mentally well and not feel like addiction is fueling your creativity is so huge.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
How has how has this affected your creative output? And are you writing? How's your creativity during this time?
I mean, it's been interesting because at first I feel like I shut down a little bit, but now I feel like I've been more in touch with my creativity now more than I have in a long time because instead of, constantly being overstimulated by
Yeah.
like other things in my college environment or whatever, I've
Right.
very much had to turn inward in my own self and my own immediate surroundings and create more from that space. So,
Yeah. That's, I think, universal. And the same with me. I'm digging deep in my thoughts about politics, about Corona, like what's.
exactly. And I think in that way it's a double-edged sword because I've seen creativity flourish and I've seen people kind of realize, what is truly important, but it's also I think deeply affected the mental health of our entire world. And I
Right.
mean, just in my own experience, that's why I started this series is because my mental health was struggling in quarantine, with the
Yes.
societal pressures. So
Yeah.
so I think have you been experiencing that at all? Like, have you felt your own mental health struggle in quarantine?
No, no. There's an old saying: when I got busy, I got better. I was fortunate because I'm still working, and
Sure,
I
sure,
work,
sure, sure.
I work really hard. Left alone, I don't know what would have happened. But again, I have my group, my guys.
Right.
I have AA. But there's a term, there's a term called adaptive coping strategies and maladaptive coping strategies, right? And so the adaptive ones are the ones that, okay, I'm in a jackpot here. What can I do to get out? Well, either work or create or something that is not going to be about self-harm and
Sure.
isolation and surrendering. And then the maladaptive ones, I'm getting loaded. I'm checking out. And I lived my life through many years, Lily. When I was your age,
Yeah.
I was checking out
Right.
because
Right.
even then in the '60s it's nothing like this. But for the '60s, it was a rough time. There was a lot of stuff going on. You
Yeah.
know, my I just wanted to check out then. I know how that feels to want to check out,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I kind of think, man, God or the big guy upstairs was looking out for me and had a bigger plan.
Yeah. What, the work you do is very personal to me and I see how important it is to be in a situation where as an artist especially you can talk about your addiction openly, you can talk about your mental health openly. And you've written about this before and talked about this, but how a lot of the time musicians, especially touring ones, can say like, "Oh, I don't have time to get help because I have to go on this tour," or "So many people are relying on me,
Yeah.
I can't stop."
Yeah, that machine is something when you have, especially big touring artists, it's a machine. But we have to educate those managers. We have to educate the music
Right.
community on the
Right.
problems of addiction because, hey, you can blow out an artist in a couple of years.
And what do
But
you
you
what
have
do
to
you say to those artists who may come to you and say like, "I don't have time. I don't have time to get care."
we make time.
Yeah.
Hire somebody to take his place. If it can't be done, let's just say that it's the lead singer of the band. You can't do it. Then you have to weigh out: how is this person at risk for dying. Because if he is, you have to let that go. If
Yeah.
this person's at risk for, overdosing or doing whatever, then you have to shut it down. But there's ways. It doesn't have to be that black and white. You
Right.
can send somebody out with them. It does not. There's ways to do it. You know what killed Michael Jackson were these huge legs of tours that were going on. My God.
And he even, he would say, "I hate touring," and
Yes.
the record companies would say, "Don't say that. Like, you have to continue to
Oh,
tour."
they were just horrible with him, you know.
Right. Have you seen a rise in people coming to Music Cares for help since COVID started?
We probably got over 23,000 people asking for help. Okay.
Wow.
When
Yeah,
we opened the gates, that's a lot of people. It's a lot of money out the door. But on
definitely.
the other hand, the industry came and they helped us out a lot. Billy, they really did. They can't. I couldn't believe them. We were getting the money we were getting from not only from labels but from individuals, but also the small bands who did stuff for us.
Sure.
And now I'm seeing more and more mental health and addiction.
Yeah, that's one of the huge things that I would love to, going forward in my work as a mental health advocate, do everything in my power to make those things more accessible.
Yeah.
As you were saying, like the inpatient programs are so expensive, and it shouldn't be. Yeah, the level of treatment of care shouldn't be reliant upon like socioeconomic status.
Yeah. Hey, Lily, I lost in March two really good friends of mine within 4 days. They lived in New York,
Wow. Oh, I'm so sorry.
and when you
Did they
talk
pass
about
from
that,
COVID?
huh? Yeah, they both had COVID.
Wow.
When you talk about the losses, that's one of the big losses of and sadness that I've had to deal
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, I'm so sorry for your losses. Thank you for sharing that. Most people, I think, now will know somebody or have known somebody that has passed from COVID. So
Yeah,
making sure that we're taking care of each other in that regard, and opening a platform to talk about, grief and loss, and the things that
right.
can come from that as well is
I
so, so,
know.
so vital.
When I hear this guy on TV about the mask stuff, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I just look at it I just look at this guy killed two of my friends.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you couple that too with what's going on, I was just trying before we 40%, there's a 40% rise in calls of people who are actively suicidal or are considering suicide. 40% from last year. And I've heard also in the same kind of figure that overdoses are up 40% from
Yeah.
last year. We don't hear about it because all this other stuff is
Yeah.
in the news. But we're losing a lot of people, a lot of great people, and but we don't hear about it.
Right. What is something that's giving you hope right now, Harold?
What's given me hope is people are beginning to see the truth about things, be it race, be it the global climate change, finding meaning in life and making changes. I think we were asleep at the wheel for a long time,
Right.
and we're coming out of this malaise, that gives me hope. What gives me hope are people like you, Lily, who are really smart and getting out there and charging forward. I can't get out there in the streets, but I wanted to.
Yeah.
I can't risk my life. If I do that, I'll probably, I can't risk it.
Yeah.
But it's young people. And when I was your age, we got out there.
Totally.
And then I didn't see that for many, many, many years.
Definitely. And there's some amazing articles on the Music Cares website actually that I was looking through,
Yeah.
that with artists speaking openly about mental health and about addiction, and about race and about climate change, and
Yeah.
talking
I
about.
mean, that's the coolest thing. And,
Yeah.
and that gives me a lot of hope
Totally.
because music, above all, changes people.
Beautiful.
Anyway, Much love, Lily. I love you.
Thank you so much,
Good
Harold. I
seeing you
love you
again.
too. Thank you so much for being here. Your work is an inspiration to me. Thank you for everything you do. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Same here.